something like this. So having listened to those stories and worrying about my father if he was losing his memory, those are the things that kind of converged for me. And and I know many people out there, I'm sorry if it's true, but I know many people are experiencing that with their elderly loved ones too. And what that means to, in essence, watch someone, a part of them die, because again, memories are the things that bring us together, right? That shared kind of experience and acknowledging it. And when one person doesn't remember, then the one who does remember can feel alone and abandoned. And so it's always hardest for the one who's left. You know, the same when someone dies, we lose a loved one, but it's the ones who are left that have to understand how to cope with their grief and how to cope with their feeling of abandonment or whatever it might be, anger, it could be anything. And so here too, it is like a death. Losing one's memory is like a death. And so I felt like I needed to process that, and kind of anticipate it. Again, I haven't experienced everything yet, and maybe my father will be fine. But I just, emotionally, it came out of a need to do that. And again, it was also part empathy for our colleague as well. So, but it was focused on my father and experiences that he's had, because he went for a while every year. He was going to Indonesia. So, and that's what they called him Grandpa there, because he was a lot older than, he was in his 80s or whatever, and people didn't see people that elderly there. So it was based on that and a couple other stories, and I kind of pulled that together. This could have been a narrative too, clearly. It could have been a story, but again, when I feel something emotionally, it goes to poems, not prose. That's the direction it takes, that's the structure it takes.
So you do use poetry then as one way by which you try to purge yourself of an emotion.
Sometimes.
To disburden yourself almost.
In this case, definitely. The other one, no, but this one, yes.
Okay, it's your turn.
Oh, my turn, okay. All right. This is called The Unsaid. I'll get my glasses on for this one. Okay. He stands, blanket wrapped round his shoulders, cup held out by a shaking hand. Furtive eyes, clouded from sleeplessness, scan the crowded station. No eyes meet his gaze. His words slip gently out, pushing people away, as if he had spit his despair like darts. Deep inside his emptiness, light and hope cling, as frightened children do, alone and waiting. His loneliness cascades like waves, washing him with longing, pulling him into the salty night. Slipping to the floor he sits, a worn woolen mountain, head bent. His eyes slide into darkness. He is still. A few who pass by see a sleeping man, nothing more. Quickly they move on.
Quite cryptic, to use your term. It's very dense, it's rich. One could relate to it in so many ways, but the author of this particular emotion, particular feeling, I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that you wanted to steer the reader, not in all directions, but in a particular direction. Am I right? Mm-hmm. What would that direction be?
Well, this was, I take the train all the time, so I'm in Back Bay. Have you been to Back Bay?
Yes.
Okay. So I spent a lot of time in Back Bay. And I used to do subways too, wherever. So there are, unfortunately, plenty of people who are without homes and sit or stand or walk, needing connection, not receiving connection. So this really came out of the countless numbers of, I tend to see more men than women, who need that connection. Not just money. It's not such that they're asking for money, but they're also asking for a human connection, to be respected, to be heard in some way. And I found that when I'm able to talk to them, that they are just happy to be listened to. They'll say, thank you for talking to me, thank you. And we forget that. We get so, this is cliche, I know, but we get into our own little boxed-in lives, and we forget that connection is everything. That we are, this is what I'm trying to teach my students, actually in my literature class right now, that we all have the power not only to create our happiness, but other people's happiness, and we're all connected in that way. One student yesterday, this is a discussion we had, okay, I can't remember where it came from, what were we reading? Or maybe, we were seeing this film called Waking Life. Have you seen that?
No.
All right, I'll let you see. It's a string of people's philosophies on life, dreams, consciousness. It's very interesting. So, out of part of what we had watched, one student said that he is constantly frustrated about someone at Berkeley. It's maybe someone who checks IDs, or it didn't even matter. That he'll come in, that person never smiles. So sure, he could try to be friendly, but if he sees someone not smile, then that's it puts him off and gets him angry. And so we started talking and saying, well, but you need to take the initiative. You don't know what's going on inside that person. We react, and there's an article too that I just read, I could tell you about that too, but that we cannot assume that what we see is truth. And instead, as an act of faith, we need to, all in good consciousness, we need to take that initiative and say hello and how are you, as if that person is openly receptive to it. So it really becomes an act of faith. I told him to try it. People shared examples. I shared examples. I'll say thank you to every train conductor or anyone else, and whether they smile or not, that's okay, because we always don't see the end result of what we do.
Quite right.
It's like a string of dominoes. Do you know what I'm saying? And so we don't see that end. And so again, it's an act of faith that we cannot rely on, and we're brought up needing to see the results, like concrete results. We can't be like that. We have to say and trust that goodness will beget goodness, in some way, whether we know it or not, see it or not, and that is that, and that truly everyone is connected in some way. So that was our discussion yesterday.
That's remarkable.
Yeah. So
I can connect with that. Let me share with you. Of course, I have to be very careful because this may sound a bit arrogant. This is what happened yesterday. I work out at this gym every day, and after my workout is over, I invariably go to the sauna room to meditate. So I did try to do that. Perhaps fortunately for me, for the first time, the sauna room, perhaps because of the time in which I went, it was around 10 o'clock. And in this period in time, as you know, there are quite a few unemployed individuals. So it may be the case that the sauna was crowded as a function of the fact that there are too many unemployed people. Whatever the case may be, that's not the gist of the story. I was graced with the presence of 3 people. One of them was quite heavy, almost a 300-pounder, dark-skinned, from Brazil. Not very fluent in English. I'm sure he is in Portuguese. It's his native tongue. But lovely from a distance. He was having a talk with the 2 others who were in the sauna room. And this is what broke my heart. He was describing himself to them as a fat man. That he was physically. He was also presenting himself as a very hard-working businessman who is raising 2 children, 8 and 12. I was listening. He also said, I'm not setting a good example for my children. I'm a fat man, again. So I waited until the other 2 left. I spoke to him, I told him what I liked about you is your sense of self. However diminished you may think you are, it's the utter humility